I can ask is that he's nice to people. He's he's smart to himself. He takes care of himself. He takes care of his family. He takes care of his friends. Um, and that he's happy. And I think that's our end goal for everybody, right? Is obviously to be happy, but money doesn't have anything to do with that. And really, you need to have these struggling times. You need to have failure.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rising Father podcast. I'm Chris Rodack. I'm really pleased to have Mark D'Ambrosio with me today. He was on season 7 of Alone. He's got an awesome survival company. He's got a wine business. He's just a great model of a husband, father, and a guy who's just living a life that a lot of us would just love to be living. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks for having me, man.
You bet. So I'm looking through your content. We did some research, me and my wife, this weekend. We started watching that season 7 of Alone, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this season. I remember some of the highlights. I remembered you, and I remember thinking as I watched the beginning, like, holy shit, he's got a lot of fish already. I was like, oh my god, this guy's gonna nail it. So I want to get into that, and like, you talked a lot. I resonated with you because how much you were talking about missing your son, and every time I watch that show, I'm always like, man, I think I could do it, but I don't know if I would just miss my kids so much that it would just like tear me up on the inside. Like I guess might as well just start there because I brought it up. So like you talked about it on the season. So what was that like?
The thing is, like, everybody's got this idea that they're going to go out there and they're going to do this show. And some people go out there for the money, and other people go out there for the experience. To go out there and truly live off the land and see how long you can do it. And when it comes to the people that go out there and do it for the experience, it's going to be hard. That's not the problem. Like, the physical, I mean, it is part of the problem, but like physically, it's extremely demanding. You're going to be sleep deprived. You're not going to be sleeping like you would at home. You don't have the amenities you have at home. But like, and then the relationships that every human needs, with talking to someone, feeling loved, communicating, sharing special moments, you're never going to have any of those. You have a camera. And the thing is, like, when you go out there for just the experience, you start to realize, like, I'm out here for an experience, and I'm also missing an experience, right? Yeah. And so if you have little ones or you have family members, you start to realize that this is a pretty selfish move. In a sense, it can feel like that. Now, on the other side of it, it's, hey, I'm doing this to teach my son how to do something hard, not quit, right? I just, there's plenty of ways to do that, but you start realizing that everything that you want, you already have. And when you realize that you have everything you already want, and you're out there and you live this life of living off the land, you're doing great, you're like, okay, what's kind of the point of this now? Is it just for money? And when you've been away from your kids or your wife or family members that mean the most to you, when you've been away from them for that long, you start to realize, hey man, I'd pay a hefty amount of money just to be able to go and see them tomorrow, give them a hug, talk to them, tell them about this experience. So it really becomes less about it becomes your journey in life, but it doesn't, staying out there, unless you were doing it for the money. If you're doing it for the money, then you're going to want to stay out there, right? But
yeah. Is there any part of it where, you're doing it not for the money? I mean, kind of for the money. You want to do it for the money so you can improve your family's life. So it also has to do with your wife and your kids. And that kind of propels you. So it's not like not much of a selfish endeavor, but you're also doing it like you're suffering and you're willing to leave your family for that long so that you could improve your life. Is that justified?
Yeah, 100%. I think everybody goes out there, they want to do it for the experience, but then, you're thinking of how can we use this money to make our lives better? How can we use this money to spend more time with one another, right? The problem is, for some people, like myself, I own my own businesses already. So like I get to set my schedule. And it didn't matter if I had $7 billion or if I have $7 in my bank account. I'm always going to work the same amount doing what I because I would do what I love. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, I don't work a ridiculous amount as it is, but I do love to work. And I love it's also, showing my son how to work, showing him that it's okay to work, but also working a job that you love, that you can go, that you can make your own schedule, that you can take off whenever you want, whether you work every other week or maybe you work only when you're not spending time with your kids, but you set that time aside and you make sure that you're there for every important thing you need to be there for. So when you're out there and you've already have that set up, um, money comes and goes. And it comes and goes so fast. Like $1 million, you tax it, we're looking at like 650,000 dollars, something like that. Um, and $650,000 is a lot in a lot of places. You come to Washington,
Mm-hmm.
that's not even a house.
Mm-hmm.
Like so, that money would be gone. You put it towards the house, but it's not even the entire house. So it's like, if you're already at that point,
Yeah.
financially, or is it like here's another thing, I guess the way that I look at things, like if I'm going to go out there and I was doing it for the money, it was that big of a deal. In a sense, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. In
Go
a
for it.
sense, it's kind of a lazy approach to life to expect that I'm going to go out there, do this show, and well, first off, I would never do this show and put my body through something that's going to harm me long term. There's no amount of money that I can pay to be able to be like, um, hey, I won $650,000 or $1 million, but I've, can't climb mountains anymore
Mm-hmm.
because my heart's all jacked up, or um, whatever long, or I lost my toes. Callie, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if she
Oh.
lost her toes, that's not worth 650,000 or $1 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
I keep saying the tax amount because I think it's important that you're not, you got to give the government all their money. But you know, it gets down to the point where it's not worth it. So what is worth it is going out there, living your experience, seeing how you do, and at the end of the day, if you are healthy and you can keep going and you are happy,
Mm-hmm.
then hell yeah, stay out there. And I didn't know how long I was going to last when I did it alone. I didn't know if I was going to be out there for 5 days, 15 days, 25 days, 35 days. And when I decided to tap, I also didn't know that I was sick.
Yep.
I just thought I was extremely, extremely tired. And I thought I was being a little bitch, if I'm being honest. I was like, I just need more blueberries in my diet or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I just knew that I was more tired then than I'd ever been in my entire life. But I didn't know that my heart was in heart failure, right? So I think, yeah, the money, you do want to improve your family's life, absolutely. And anytime you bring in income and that fast, it is improving your life. But it's also setting you up. I think in a way, it could be the negative side. I've never really thought of it like this, but setting you up for a lazy mindset of not having to push
Mm-hmm.
in a way. Like that is pushing yourself in a short amount of time. But my wine business, for example, I got out of the Marine Corps in 2017 and I started my survival sustainment business. And that was easy because for the past 10 years, I've been teaching survival, shooting. I was conducting special operations for the Marine Recon and Marine Scout snipers. So I transitioned to that real easily. But for the next 5 years, I was like, I just don't feel like I'm fulfilling what I need to do. That included a loan. I did a loan in 2019 and I got out in 2017. So I just didn't feel like I was living up to my potential. I knew that I could do more. And I also knew that this lifestyle I had of running my own business, it was not conducive to a lifestyle for Max. I was always traveling. And luckily Max was extremely young back then. But as Max
Mm-hmm.
started to be able to talk and walk and do all these other things, I started realizing I need to have a job where I can be here in Washington all the time. If his mom's ever like, "Hey, can you watch him?" I don't ever want to say no to that. Yeah. So started the business, get out of the Marine Corps, doing something that I already knew how to do, which was teach people. I didn't feel like I was living up to my potential because I always want to be pushing myself. I always want to be growing. I have that mindset that like I can do anything, and I have the mindset that I love to work. There's just something in my
Mm-hmm.
blood and in my brain where I love starting at the bottom and building myself up. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
It's just much more enjoyable than thinking that I can make it directly to the top easily. Even if I did make it to the top in something easily, it's just not as enjoyable. So I started this wine business, and that has been a struggle, but it has been the best struggle from a work standpoint because I'm learning, I'm
Mm-hmm.
growing. It's hard. It's something that so many people told me like you don't know jack shit about the wine world. I'm like, you can learn, right?
Yeah,
Um,
good.
I like wine. Yeah, right. I can learn. I know about adventure, so that's why I started. So with alone and doing it, um, one of the benefits of like going because going on alone and doing that, it was an experience that you'll never get once. Like
Mm-hmm.
very very few people will ever get that kind of experience. You can go out there, push your body, have a backup plan so you don't die, so that somebody's checking up on you, right? Because everybody can go out there and push their bodies like they do on alone, and you just might legitimately die. So to have that kind of safety net there is very very rare, and you know to go out there even just for 44 days for me that was amazing, and it was great, and I was having fun. And even if I wasn't having fun, like day 35, day 34, I started not having fun. When it started getting hard to breathe, and um, I had diarrhea twice a day, and in a situation like that, you're usually going to the bathroom every 3 to 5 days. You'll go to the bathroom. I was
Wow.
going to the bathroom twice a day, but I had all the food I could eat, and I still wasn't having fun. And it wasn't that I was like sitting there missing my family in a crazy, crazy way, because you do miss your family, but it was because my body was literally being stripped of everything that it had. And you get to the point where you push yourself and you push yourself and you push yourself, and you realize what you're doing is not benefiting you in any way, shape, or form. You're going down this rabbit hole of decline.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, let's say in relationships, they'll do that. Well, they'll stick in a relationship and they're declining, 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 thinking that it's going to get better. And the reality is, if you don't stop what you're doing and change something, you might die, right? Or the relationship might die. So you've got to change something drastically. And so for being out there on a loan, I was like, well, I know what I'm doing is not working. And I didn't look at it as a failure that I didn't make it to 100 days. I looked at it as, well, this sucks. I am quitting this, but I know that I can't go on. I know that I cannot take my body and keep going through this, because whatever I'm doing in my diet or whatever I'm doing out here, it's just not working. And the only reason why I knew that is because I had been a recon marine. I had done ridiculously physically hard things in my life that I was able to look back on and go, why is this harder than all of that stuff? And I had way less food and I had way less sleep. And it was a different scenario, right? The
Mm-hmm.
military is not the same as alone in any way, shape, or form. And, it doesn't prepare you for alone, if I'm being honest. Um, if you're mentally strong or you're mentally tough, you're mentally strong, you're mentally tough. But, like, a part of being mentally strong is also knowing your body. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't know that's what was happening. I just knew that I was tired and I couldn't keep going. So I decided to tap. And, when I got when I got back, I mean, there was a long rigmarole of hospitals and finding information out within just a few days on how close I was to dying. But it wasn't until I got back to Oregon where they were like, I tried to go in the hospital and leave, and they're like, negative. I was actually in there for 3 days, admitted, and I was like, hey, can I just go home and like come back in every day? And they're like, no. Or like, you were literally days away from dying. Your heart was in the condition of an 87-year-old man that had a massive heart attack, and we didn't want to tell you all this just to scare you, but like maybe you need to hear this. And it was after that conversation with the doctor that I was like, okay, dang, okay, yeah, I did push myself to absolute, um, to the max. Maybe I pushed it a little bit too far, but at the end of the day, I don't have any long-term effects. The trichinosis, yes, it did get into my heart, and it did inflame the inside and the outside of my heart, and my troponin levels were through the roof, but I never had an actual heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't have been an actual, it would just been complete heart failure. So my heart was going through heart failure, and if I would have stayed out there 1 to 2 more days longer for pride, for being tough, then Max wouldn't have a dad to show him how to even change a tire. So it's like, and that's nothing tough, right? So yeah, alone was an amazing experience that showed me way more than what $1 million would show. It showed me the importance of just being there for the future of my child. Um, Going out there and doing it was an awesome experience. You don't get, you're not going to get famous off going and doing alone, and the people that go and do alone don't really give a shit about being famous. They're all these kind of loners to start with. Most of them don't have social media, and if they do now, it's because hey, they can make money
Yep.
off of going and using the time they spent on alone and now instructing with that knowledge or teaching people. But they're not going out there, trying to become some TV personality. And anytime we run into somebody that we're like, oh my gosh, can I take a picture with you? Or I'm like, oh, it's so weird to me. And I'm like, yeah, as long as I can take a picture with you, because we're the same. We're the same thing.
Yep.
But yeah, man, alone, awesome experience. It taught me way more than what $1 million would teach me, and I am very grateful that, in a sense, I'm very grateful that everything happened the way it did. I wouldn't change it. If I can go back and not eat the fish that gave me trichinosis,
Yeah. Oh, is it a
or
fish?
cook it all the way. Yeah, it was all I was really eating. That and rabbit, and the fish is the only thing that actually eats meat.
I don't know where
Out
my
of the
wife
things I was
got this,
eating.
but I was telling her about this podcast with you, and she goes, "Oh yeah, he had to quit from trichinosis," and she was like, "Oh, he actually
Yeah.
got it from something before the show." She was researching you. I said, "Oh really?" So I was like, "I'll ask him about that tomorrow." So it was from
No.
a fish at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was it was day 10 that I ended up getting trichinosis, or that I had it. I knew that I had it on day 10. That's when all the signs and the symptoms started happening. But I also
Mm-hmm.
know that I was starting to eat fish on day 5 at a rapid rate, and I was cooking it medium rare. So, and it's a very, very rare thing to get it from, but it's possible. And do I eat salmon and not, these lake trout are like salmon, right?
Mm.
But do I eat salmon the same way now? Absolutely. It's very, very rare to get it from fish. So,
Mm. So one thing you said that was super important was like now you know that the money isn't worth everything to you. So in how that valuable that realization is. So I would imagine that you have a certain sense of peace about you where other people don't, because there's a lot of people who their entire life is driven by an income level or a result that they have to get. Like if I get this amount of money this year, I will be happy. And until they get that, they're not happy. And then when they get that, they need more. But through punishing and suffering and being away from your family, now you have this huge realization of, man, the money isn't the thing I want. Like what I want, I already have. And to know that at your age right now, to me would be like, man, you've got decades of just peace in your head.
yeah, you know, it is. I definitely have. I don't know if I think I've always had that mindset. Um, I'm not saying it's necessarily the best thing to have that mindset, because, some people the people that are out there pushing for more money and more money and more money quickly realize when they start making it that it'll never be enough. And it's not necessarily, they're seeing money as a level to measure success. And so that's why, for me, I like measuring success based off of starting at the bottom and growing.
Mm.
And when I started like my business, International Mountain Survival, I made $18,000 the first year, and then the second year I made $24,000. This is 2017, 2018. The next year I made $36,000.
Mm.
3 years in the business, working full time. This is all I'm making, and
Yep.
many people look at that like, oh man, in 2017 when I got out, I got offered a job making $100,000 a year in North Carolina. Wasn't very expensive to live there. That's a great lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with that. But I was building every year.
Yep.
And so every year I was becoming more successful, and that was really exciting. And I wasn't making jack shit for money. The
Mm.
fourth year, it went up to $65,000, and by the fifth year, it was $220,000. And so by the fifth year, I, exceeded almost twice of what I would be making starting off. But every year it would only be $100,000. And when I got to that point, I did something, and in most people's eyes, it was kind of stupid. I stopped doing that business at that level because what did that cost me? Yes, $220,000, but it cost me my time with my son.
Mm-hmm.
I spent 190 days away from my house that I live in currently, where I was working. And I love what I do. I'm teaching people how to shoot. I'm teaching wealthy clients how to shoot, how to, hanging out with them, having fun with them, survival, going and teaching Hawaii how to, their marijuana eradication teams, how to rappel. I mean, I was doing some fun stuff, and I was getting paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it. So I went all the way back down to the bottom, took all the money that I had made and invested it back into my wine brand, or into a wine brand, to try and start a company up that, yes, it was still changing people's lives with the adventure that's rolled into it, but it is allowing me to be home with my son Max. And it's a business that I didn't know anything about. It's a world that I didn't know anything about. And when I sit there and I tell people, hey, you can go out there and start any business you want, as long as you're not trying to be a rocket scientist, unless you have the ability to do that, or a doctor, probably going to need to go to school for those two. But if you want to go out there and start any business, and you put your time and your heart into it with a bunch of hard work, you'll make it succeed as long as you stick with it. And you're going to hit bumps along the way. It's just a matter of not quitting as you do that. But if that business is killing you, or if that business is, this is what you said, the reason why I'm on this podcast is one of the things that you said on social media. I'm going to butcher it, but something along the lines of like, what did you say? You said something like,
20 years from
you got
now.
to start thinking about how your kids are going to view you in 20 years from now, right? What did you say? Do you remember?
Yeah, I said, what are your kids going to say to their kids about you 20 years from now? Are they going to describe you as energetic and present or cold and frustrated?
Yeah. And, as I started thinking about it resonated perfectly with me because you have to think about every single move that you're making and the time that you're spending with your children.
Yeah.
And if you're truly doing it for your kids, then you got to be present.
Yeah.
And even though I was working and I was doing something that I loved, um, I just felt like I could have been here more. And the crazy thing is, uh, I'm a dad that, call me a single dad if you want. That's not the way I look at it, but I mean I am. Like my son's mother and I are not together. I get my kid every other weekend, and that was kind of in a sense by choice. But Oregon, Washington, and California have this rule where like 0 to 3, they're going to go with one parent essentially,
Hmm.
just for consistency while they're really young. And since when Max was born, we separated almost immediately. I got to see him every other weekend, and that was like the hardest thing ever thrown at me. I'm like, what? But I had to accept that. Now, when he became 3 years old, my option was what? I can take this to court, fight this, make the relationship with his mom not as good as it is right now, or I can take this time that, I am not spending with my son and I can work my butt off. And I can, when she wants to, let me see my son more, then I can. as he gets older, naturally, the mom's going to want, more time to herself, to work on her own business, for all sorts of things. And that is exactly what's happening, but it's a slow process. So instead of me going and taking my situation to the courts, I've never been like that. I have a great relationship with his mom, and I get every other weekend, and I'm like, oh. So with that being said, I wasn't even, I didn't even technically have time that I was missing. I wasn't missing time when I was going out there working, right?
Mm.
But what I wasn't is I wasn't available. I wasn't able to sit there and tell his mom, I'm here. I'm here this entire week. I'm here this entire week. And as Max gets older, I need to be there for her, even though she's not asking for it right now. I need to set my life up to be able to be there for her because that is being there for him. And, and so that's the way I started looking at it. And I was like, all right. And she had actually made the comment to me. She's like, you're always gone. And he was like, this was after a loan. He was like just under 3 years old. She's like, yeah, you're always gone for work. Why does it even matter? And I was like, well, I make my own schedule. I could be here more. And so that's not the way she looked at it. So I decided to take it upon myself. And I was like, okay, well, I'll start this business where I am here more. And I changed my business structure for my sustainment business, my survival shooting sustainment business, to only do 4 courses a year. So I cut that down to 4 courses a year. And that's a very specific program for individuals that truly want to change physically, mentally, and spiritually in the mountains. And then I started the wine business. And it was a pay cut like no other. And currently, like, I don't know if you guys don't know, the fastest way to become a millionaire is to start off as a billionaire and then start a wine company. So, but, a lot of people will say you don't make money in the wine world. And honestly, it's that drive of someone telling me, hey, you're not going to be successful in the wine world. It's a very hard market to be able to sit there and go, that's not the way I work. Like, you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to find a way just to prove you wrong. Mm. And so that's kind of where I had a passion for what I was doing. I knew that I wanted to change people's lives, get more people into the survival world, more people into the outdoors. So this entire wine brand, I didn't just start a wine company because I thought it would be financially successful. I started a wine brand because it's what I was passionate about. And so wine meant to be consumed outdoors. That's our tagline. And when you scan the QR code on the back of the bottle of wine, it takes you to a list of adventures that are pre-planned out there for you.
That's awesome. What's the wine called?
The bottles and the Woodsman Selection.
Okay.
So even the bottles themselves, they can be used. The premium bottles, for example, like one of them has a ferro rod on it with jute wrapped around the top, and you can light a fire with that bottle.
That's awesome.
The other bottle, the Angler, has a fishing fly, which is a woolly booger fly and fishing line wrapped around the top. And so you scan that QR code, it's going to show you how to make a primitive fly rod, how to make a Tenkara rod, how to go out there and catch fish. Whereas that's what I was doing before for individuals that could afford to go through my courses and take the time off to go through my courses. But my passion is about getting people out there, as many as I can, and just imparting the knowledge onto them. Mm-hmm. And so I just found a different way to do that. And once you do that, you go out there and you celebrate with this damn good bottle of wine. And, so it was through this process of going from one business, building it up, becoming successful in the military, building up a business on my own, a legitimate one, and then building up my second business, one that I knew nothing about. It's this process in life of going through and doing all these things, but making sure that no matter what, I am prioritizing my son. Mm-hmm. And that changes, I think. Like, as he gets older, I have to think about it different.
How old is he now?
He's 5. He's not that. He's still not. Well, he's going to be 5 in September. But when I say that, like, I always need to be present for him, I have to understand that, like, even if he turns 13 years old, he's like, fuck you, Dad, I don't want anything to do with you, I'm still going to be here.
Yep.
And, like, man, and, I kind of had this realization with my own dad recently. Me and him, man, I just, for some reason at 37 years old, I'm 38 now, but at 37, this is when I kind of had this realization. I was like, man, my dad moved away, and like immediately after my parents got divorced, he moved away, and I was like, it never bothered me as a kid growing up. And then I started thinking about it more. I was like, man, he did that to his other son. He kept moving, and I'm like, and I was angry, and I was like, why am I angry about this? And it wasn't until last week that I started realizing I was like, I shouldn't be even be mad at him. He was done being a dad. What I mean by that is, you may not agree with this. This is what I thought of last week. What I mean by that is, at 18 years old, when I go out to live my own life and I start to build my own family and I start to build my own set of values and morals and how I want to live my life, my little tribe, that tribe is not the same as my dad's tribe. It is a break off of that tribe, but it's what he turned me into, right? What my mother turned me into to start my own family. So if I do something that my dad doesn't approve of, that doesn't mean that, he loves me any less or he should love me any less. It just means that he might not agree with it. And so my dad, I look at my dad as more of a friend. Now, when I started thinking of it like that, like it's kind of in line with what you were saying. Like, I want my son to view me as a friend. Yeah, he can always come to me. You can always go to a really good friend for advice, for financial help, for love. You can always go to a good friend, but like all of the dad stuff, I'm not going to be sitting there like taking care of him, showing him all these roofs. I'll still show him things just like a friend would, but like I think it's just different when you're 30 years old trying to treat a father with the same expectancy. Like, I need you to be there for me. No, I don't. You raised me to be on my own. Now, I do want to spend time with you. And, I want to spend time with him. I want him in my life. But I don't hold him to that same standard. I hold him to a standard that I hold a really good friend to. And when I started thinking of it like that, all these things that I was mad at him for kind of went away. And when he does something that I don't agree with, I'm like, I don't let it get to me like it used to.
Yeah.
Um, and so for Max, I started thinking, man, I don't want him growing up being pissed off at me like I wasn't my dad. And just because I'm here for him doesn't necessarily mean that that's a good thing. If I'm here for him and a bad father, then that's worse for him
Yeah.
than being away and you know being a good father. So it's this constant um, reality check of how am I doing things, getting advice from other people. Hey, could I be doing things better? I asked his mom the other day, and I'm like, starting to feel like I'm like, hey, maybe I'm too hard on him. Am I being too hard on him? Like, I know I've got the military background, and is it there's just this age, and it was really comforting hearing her tell me like he's doing it to all of us right now. Like, it's this age, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm gonna like lay off a little bit, and like I don't know, and but at the same time, I'm like, well, I can't let him get away with being rude, right? I don't want to ever let him get away with being rude. But everything on how I discipline him, how I talk to him about things, um, it all has to be thought out because even just one situation, I'm going to take a really good example. It happened last week. I want to teach him how to become self-sufficient, right? And me and Christina, and Christina's daughter, Kyle, and Max, we all went out. We were at Christina's house, and we took a chicken from the chicken pen. And Hannah, Christina's daughter, is the same exact age as Max, a month different. And so they're going to turn 5 in September and October. And we're like, you know what? Let's teach them how to butcher a chicken. But it's not as simple as just going out there and taking a chicken and cutting their head off in front of them and traumatizing them. It's about teaching them that it's okay to be scared.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to not want to have to kill your chicken that you've been growing with for the past year, like Hannah has. But doing it in a right, respectful manner. And so, we all did that. And the 3 parents, we kind of sat around and came together and found a way to get this point across to them that there's food chickens, there's egg chickens, and then there's friend chickens, right? And because if I was just to take and pull that chicken out like a man, put it on a log and chop its head off, and blood goes everywhere. Max could be traumatized by it.
Yeah.
He'd be like, ah! Right? And I'm like, okay, so I've got to do this to where he's not traumatized. Same thing with hunting, same thing with everything that you bring them up into. It's a very impressionable age of where they're at. And it's a sensitive one. And so, I even had Max cut the chicken's head off. And
Wow.
you've got to balance like because I did it with him, right? We put it in a little chicken chute. They make these little chutes that you can put chickens into, just in case anybody's wondering, which is super neat. Kyle had it. I've never even seen one. And the chicken's head just falls through, but the chicken can't move around, right? So it can't flop around, it can't do anything, and it's just kind of confined there. But then it relaxes, and the head goes down, and you grab the head, and you can cut the head off. And in order to kill your chicken the fastest, most humane way possible, right? And it was really nice for teaching Max, because one, I'm teaching him, hey, how to take care of and clean your own food and how to do this, but like not traumatize him with blood. And blood still went all over his face, which was kind of funny. But I got the video and I was like, whew, and I'm looking at him. He's like, kind of questioning it, and he's like, okay, all right. And then he was interested, and I was like, all right. And we don't play with it. We don't, this wasn't fun. We got to respect it. We got to thank the chicken. We were thanking the chicken before, and we thanked the chicken afterwards. And that's that kind of mindset that I want my son to grow up with. It's not that I want to raise him to be tough and go out there and chop the head off of a chicken, but like I want him to go out there and know that it's okay to take care of yourself and provide for yourself, and that just because you're killing something, I mean, what is it? The Lion King? What's that quote from the Lion King? It's like,
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it. When the dad
the circle
dies.
of life.
The
Circle of life. No, circle of life with eating everybody.
Yeah.
It's that's what I grew up with whenever I was a kid. But it is that, right? And so when it comes down to Max and it comes down to getting him into shooting guns, if he doesn't want to shoot guns when he gets older, he doesn't want to shoot guns. And that doesn't mean I think any less of him. That's just not what he's into. But that's the thing. He's gonna have his own family. He's gonna live his own way. And all I can ask is that he's nice to people. He's smart to himself. He takes care of himself. He takes care of his family. He takes care of his friends. And that he's happy. And I think that's our end goal for everybody, right? Is obviously to be happy, but money doesn't have anything to do with that. And really, you need to have these struggling times. You need to have failure to be able to appreciate the good times.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about, because you said, honestly, you said you have 10 great lessons in what you just said. But I want to go back to you starting businesses, stopping businesses, and reworking your life to be at a point where it makes sense for you and it's not all about the money. But you talked about how the struggle is where you really live, and that's where you get your fire from, and that's where you enjoy the time. Like the result of getting to the end goal isn't as beautiful as what you learn along the way. And as long as you stick with it, you're not going to fail. But what is it? Because there's so many guys that come into contact with me, that I work with, and that are in our community who are on various journeys. They might be trying to quit their 9-to-5 and start a business. They might be trying to lose 100 pounds, or they might have a marriage on the brink of divorce. But so many times we are in this cycle of starting and stopping, starting and stopping. And even me, myself, I was there. If you look on my profile, I've got like a before and after picture of whenever I lost weight. I did P90X, this old beach body workout, before I got married. I got shredded. Went on my honeymoon, Sandals, Jamaica. I gained like 10 pounds in 1 week. Then I gained 40 pounds the next year. And it was like 10 straight years of starting and stopping, and just not being able to really commit and push through that resistance that comes when you're working towards a goal. So if you're a guy listening to this, you're like, oh man, I've effed up again today. Like I failed again. I wanted to get up early and go to the gym. I didn't do it. Or I wanted to start that business and I didn't do it. What is it that you can tap into that gets you to not be so scared of failing or not quit, to push through and be consistent. Like, you went 3 years, and the most you made in the first 3 years of business, you said, was like $36,000. Most people would have quit by then.
Yeah. Um, what can you tap into? Um,
Like, what is it that keeps you
what you're
going?
the thing is, like, what you're talking about for business, it is easier to do business, in my opinion, and to start a business and to have no money than it is to lose weight. And the reason why I say that is because I've got a client for the mountain program, and his name's Nick. And we're going through this journey right now for him. So the mountain program's a year-long process, right? And the entire purpose of this year-long process is 4 courses, 4 days each. And the entire purpose is to take somebody, and at the end of the course, they can move through the mountains 30 to 60 miles with a 50-pound pack on their back, engaging targets, lighting friction fires, starting shelters, but truly living off the land, doing all this in 4 days. And they've got to show me that they're 100% proficient in all of these skill sets, from how to use a carbine, to how to shoot a long-range precision rifle, to how to move through the mountains, how to pack your ruck, how to eat food, how to trap animals, all of the stuff. But you can't do that if you're 287 pounds like he started off with. So he's been, we started this program back June 8th. We started this. What's today's date? August 29th? 28th. He went from 287 pounds. He was 248 pounds in that amount of time. But he's going through this program that is, it is an in-depth. He's got a personal trainer. He's got me that he talks to all the time that I'm always following up. He's videoing himself. And maybe that's it right there. Accountability. Maybe something that you can do is being accountable. And one of the really cool things, even alone, right, being accountable, is you got a camera. Take a camera and record yourself, because you know that if you're making this journey, and put that shit online immediately.
Yep.
Because now you're not just saying, hey, I'm going out there. Oh, I don't have to do it today. There's people that are expecting you to go out and work out, right? Whenever I sit there and say that, hey, I'm going to go out here, I'm going to do a 100-pound ruck, and I put that on Instagram, and then I don't do it, there's a problem right there. But I am accountable to go and do these things, and I want to do it for myself. But I know that, hey, these people are also watching my journey. And for Nick, I think that's one of the big motivators for him, is knowing that he's not in this alone. And nobody wants to be in this alone. Nobody wants to be going and losing weight or starting a business. But if you have the understanding that you are better tomorrow than you were yesterday, no matter what, even if you didn't lose any weight, you worked out, you're better, and you're eating healthy, you're still better than you were the day before. Weight loss is an incredibly, as you know, incredibly difficult thing to do. Can it be done? Absolutely. Shit. My method, like for Nick, for example, he's been crushing it. He's got weight goals he has to meet. He needs to be down to 242 pounds by September 28th for our program. So all I don't tell him what his end goal is. He started off at 287 pounds. I'm hoping he doesn't watch this, but in 1 year's time, my goal is to have him down to 199 pounds. He's 6'1". He actually thinks in his head I want him down to like 185 pounds, which I don't. But he's got a lot of weight to lose in essentially a short amount of time, and it can be done as long as he eats healthy and he works out. And the cool thing about people that are trying to lose weight is, if you're eating unhealthy, the amount of weight that you can lose just by changing your diet up is huge. Now, and why does he want to do this? Why does he want to lose weight? When you start thinking about, you're talking about accountability, and you start realizing, oh, we're losing weight for what? Because you're a 38-year-old doctor. He's very, very successful. He doesn't need to lose weight. He's got all the money in the world. Dude's got his own plane, okay? He's got money. He's a very, very successful doctor. And what's really neat about it is, what is he doing it for? He's doing it for his daughters. He's doing it for his kids, because they're a little bit younger than Max, And whenever I pitched it to him, you need to do this because he's been a client of mine for a while. Well, why? And I'm like, because if you don't, there's a very good chance of heart failure at a very young age, and you're going to be missing your kid's wedding. You're going to be missing all sorts of things if you don't take care of yourself. So that gets into, hey, it really comes back to our kids because in life, the only thing that matters is once you have a kid, is your kid and setting them up for success and them setting their kids up for success. And I'm not saying you have to go out there and make a bunch of babies. That's not what I'm saying. But like, if I was to go through this world and not have any kids, then I'm going to want to influence other people in this world in a positive way. Because as you're laying on your deathbed, you got to go, well, can I make it through this life? How long can I make it through? I want to make it through as long as possible, having as positive of an impact as possible, knowing that I lived a damn good life. And you can't do that if you're overweight. And so if you video yourself, you hold yourself accountable, put it on social media, start a YouTube, get a few friends to follow you, right? And that's all you need. You don't need 10,000 followers. You don't need all that. Like, followers on social media don't mean shit, right? Just because a guy has 2 million followers on social media doesn't mean he's proficient at what he does. Doesn't mean he could be, absolutely. But like, there's a lot of people out there that don't know how to use social media, don't have a good following, that are putting excellent content out there, or they're, changing people's lives for the better. So yeah, that's what I would tell people. Like, put a camera in front of their face, hold yourself accountability, and it's like you can do that on your own. Also knowing that you're gonna mess up. And I told Nick that you're gonna mess up. You're gonna eat some food that you didn't want to eat. That doesn't mean it's the end of the world. But I will check up with him every single day or every other day. I'm like, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do that workout? And he's like, yep, nope, I didn't do it. Well, do it, because now the accountability thing for the mountain program is this. If Nick doesn't get down to 242 pounds, how do I, as an instructor, as part of this program, how do I make him accountable with that? You know what initially I wanted to do was put a $50,000 deposit that he was going to put down. And if you don't lose that money, I'm going to take 10 grand out every month and put it towards you losing weight. He's got so much money, that might not even work. Yeah. So what did I do? I said, Nick, you're signing this contract now. If you don't lose 242 pounds, or if you're not down to 242, by this date, and if you don't meet the weight requirements every quarter, I will come to your house. You're going to fly me to your house. You're going to pay me a daily rate, and you're going to put me up in your home, and you will wake up at 5 a.m., and you will be with me from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. You will go to work, and he works in a doctor's office. You will have somewhere for me to go in your doctor's office. He's like, yep, I got a spot for you. His wife had to sign the contract. So now I will be with you for 10 days at a time, every month, at least a minimum of 10 days, and I will make you lose that weight. And it is not going to be the nice version of me. And so when he heard that, and his wife heard that, that really motivated his wife to be like, listen, I don't want Mark in our house. He's cool and all, but not that cool. And it seems like he's kind of being a dick in this mountain program. Like, so, like, she's liking the results, obviously, but like, yeah, that fear, that is a motivator. Fear of failure, or fear of having to make it worse than it needs to be. But most importantly, like, for him, he's never lost. He's always been this heavy. He's never gotten down since he was in high school. Has he never been weighed the weight that I want him to weigh? And even his personal trainer, let's be honest, like, I would talk to him on the phone. He didn't have the right mindset for Nick. He was already looking at like, hey, I've been working with this guy for 3 years. I just, it's probably not going to happen. Well, now his personal trainer's motivated, and watching that happen, amazing. Having his kids go out there, and he's riding they were riding in a golf cart in front of him while he's got a ruck on his back in the very beginning and hiking, and his little girl screaming, "You got this, Daddy!" And she's like 3. She's like, "You can do this, Dad, faster, faster, faster!" And he turns the phone around onto himself, and you just see that light in his eye of this fat, chubby guy just getting really excited about this, right? And now look at him 3 months later. It's only been 3 months, and he's dropped, was that 40 pounds? Oh, no, 30 pounds or 40 pounds? Can I not do math? 240, 287 to 39 pounds. So that's a lot of weight. Um, but he can do it. And if he doesn't get down to that weight, let's say he doesn't get down to 200 pounds, let's not forget, as long as he can hike 30 to 60 miles through the mountains, shooting targets and doing everything you need to do, the end goal is to be healthy, to be able to go out there and adventure with your kid. That's what I would say. Some accountability.
Yeah, and we have with what I do is we also have a men's program where we have a group coaching program where I take guys who want to lose weight or they need to get their life in order. And a big part of it is accountability. And that's why it's pretty successful, is because guys are required to every single day post their wake-up times, post pictures of themselves at the gym. We have marriage and fatherhood checklists they have to do for being a good husband, being a good father. They have to post their macros at the end of every single day. And if they, like, every single day they have to post it in our group accountability. And every single, like, if you miss it for a couple of days, people know you're fucking up. And that alone, plus just being surrounded by guys who want the same thing, like having those positive voices in your head are just massive. Like being able to check in with you and saying, hey, like, lift me up, help me rise, instead of voices that are tearing you down. That's huge.
It is extremely huge. Like, from working out to business to everything. This is why, like, people pay so much money to go to mastermind courses, business masterminds, or they'll pay. And the reason why they keep doing it is because of that accountability, because they're building this relationship with other entrepreneurs. They're learning from them, way they do things. And the workout program is the same exact way, right? Like, not only are they coming to you going, hey, I have to check in with this, and that's that accountability aspect, but they're also learning from you different ways to do things. They're building relationships. They're becoming part of your tribe. And so, and they will create their own tribe in the future, obviously, by, working out and spreading the word and getting to the point where you are physically, mentally. That's the end goal for all of us. The end goal should be thinking of, like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maybe you might start off at the bottom, surviving, trying to find your food, your water, your shelter, right? And then after you have these things, life, you're like, okay, I can start thinking about a relationship. I can start thinking about kids. I can start thinking about financial stuff, security, and I can start building myself up. But the end goal to get to the top of self-actualization is, in my opinion, is to be up at the top, and now you're helping others up. You're showing others the way. So it should never be, hey, I want to build myself up and be sitting at the top and I just stay there. I want to be bringing others up. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like, you're going to go back down. You have to understand, you'll go back down to the bottom. You'll climb it again. Life is a constant journey of ups and downs. And, when I start thinking about, like, Nick going through this program, or anybody going through your program, they should be going through getting physically fit, mentally tough, and then taking over your role and helping more people up. And if we're not doing that as instructors, or we're not doing that as business coaches, then we're not doing it for the right reasons.
Leaders create leaders who should be creating leaders. And it's in the same, like, whenever you're trying to change your life and you fail, which is going to happen, as you said. Like, for me, I've come into contact with guys who, they'll tell me when I first meet them, hey, I'm too far gone. I'm 300 pounds, I'm 5'10", I have a 4-year-old kid, I'm not going to make it. It's like, no, they don't even want to begin. I say, no, man, this is your opportunity to show your kids what a massive transformation could be, because your kids will be going through trauma, they will have their own failures, and if you fold now, then you're showing your kids, you're robbing them of their confidence and telling them that they won't be able to overcome their own failures in the future. So no, this is your massive opportunity to show your children how they can overcome a failure by watching their dad do it and live it for the most influential years of their life. And the failures are going to come, but that is, like, for me, what kept me stuck, I think, was I wallowed in the failure too much. Like, I let it affect my identity. My identity was the result. But instead of wanting to become like your buddy Nick, like, it doesn't matter if he hits that goal. Like, now he is the guy who works out. That's the thing he wanted to do. He just wanted to be able to get himself to the gym. He's doing the thing he wanted to be able to do. The number on the scale will come and go, but if you now are the person who can eat healthy, you are disciplined, you can get yourself to the gym, you've won. Now you just got to not stop.
Yeah. And this eating healthy thing, man, I mean, like, I'm bad at not eating healthy. And the older I get, the more I look at these ingredients on these boxes of things, and the more I realize, like, how the information that we're being fed is jacked. It's just so messed up. And this is what I grew up thinking was right. My dad eats like trash. My mom was actually pretty good, pretty damn healthy and health conscious when it came to eating. Pretty hippie. And, but like, yes, work out, all this stuff, but the older I get, I'm like, processed foods. Pretty bad for you. Everything has got all these oils in there. And I'm not going to get too crazy about it, but I'm like, wow. If I was to cut out, even being in great shape, being able to go out there and ruck, if I was to cut these things out, how much better do I feel? Who knows if I'll live longer or not live longer? You get hit by a bus, you could live to be 100 and smoke cigarettes all day. I get it. But it's a matter of like having that discipline to eat what we know is right. And we work out, and I always think of it from a caveman perspective. If I'm not out there hunting, or if I can't go out there and hunt, then I'm not doing my job. And if I'm not in good physical shape, then I can't go out there and provide food for myself. Because even though starting a very successful wine business and it is growing, I'll have finances, me having a mansion, which I don't have by any means, you can tell that, right? Me having a mansion and servants and going to the grocery store all the time is not setting myself up for success, because this country and this world, we will 1000% have something happen in the future where we can't just go to the grocery store. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, those things that you used to be able to go and just have someone else do for you, it's great to have it while you can. We should really love the fact we can go get fresh strawberries when we want to get them, fresh pineapple, all these fruits. You're living like a king. When you start thinking of life like that, you're like, okay, I have vegetables that I didn't even have to grow. That is living like a king. But you should also set yourself up for success by being physically fit to be able, and have the knowledge, have a place to go to provide your own food. If you don't have your own place already, so I just have a backup plan. But like living your life as caveman as you can, and having the caveman in you still gives you that peace of mind of knowing that I don't sit there and prepare for the apocalypse. Why? Because I'm confident in knowing that I have the equipment that I need to at my house to go out there, provide food, water, shelter, start my own little tribe, and tell the rest of the world to piss off. And like, I even have enough equipment and food to be able to bring people in and show them the way, but like, I'm never going to sit there and spend all my money on prepping. I'm never going to sit there and not start a business because I think that the apocalypse is going to happen. I think the word apocalypse is ridiculous. I don't think it'll work like that, obviously, but I want to be prepared, but I also want to be moving forward, from a business standpoint and with my children. And that's, I think, my dad never had that survival mindset, right? He never had that, hey, the world's gonna end type of thing. He wouldn't know what to do if like we had to go out there and start finding our own food. But if I was to only take that approach of survival and not take the business approach, if the world doesn't end, and we're sitting in a technologically advanced society, then I am also failing. If I can't provide the basic things, if I'm out there living like a caveman in a world that's not been in a country that's not collapsed, then I'm not doing things right.
Yeah, if you're a YouTube influencer who's making millions off of showing people how to do that, then continue doing it. But if you're not, then you're missing. Or there's guys who build the pools with the sticks in the jungles. Yeah, but if you're not, you're missing out on a lot of life. Man, you had so much wisdom. I'm gonna have to listen to this one back. About starting a business, not quitting, kids. We talked about. Well, I mean, I got 100 things. I could talk to you for 3 hours, but we have to wrap it up. I knew you were a good guy to bring on the podcast. Just listening to you, looking at your stuff, I was like, "This. I know there's a reason he came on," and you really shared so much. Thank you so much for being on. Your program sounds amazing. The wine business, the Woodsman selection, right? Sounds awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I'm guessing you can order it online.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we'll order one of those. But what do you want people to know about how to contact you or where to find you?
Man, I don't know. You can reach out on social media if you want at Mark D'Ambrosio Official. I do a pretty damn good job of getting back to everybody on there. Um, Anywhere they reach out, I make sure that I get back to people. That's one of the things, like old school woodsman style, right? Like call, perfectly fine. You can call me. I don't care. Phone number is 910-408-6586. If I don't answer, I'll try and text back. But like, yeah, I'll always get back to people. Email, social media, depends on what they're looking for, what they want, and kind of go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.